It was a day like any other, except it wasn't. At the end of a long goose chase with nothing to show for it but an empty stomach and a double sawbuck in my wallet, I found myself at a seedy pizza joint in a rough neighborhood. At first I had missed it as I walked by, but the aroma of fresh pies made my nose see what my eyes had missed. The nose knows. Yeah. I found a nondescript front door and went inside to a counter to order. And that's when she walked up, a saucy blonde with flour on the side of her pepperoni nose and a cheesy grin to match. Or maybe I was just hungry. She asked, "What do you have, Mac?" "Blank. My name's Blank." She smiled a smile that didn't match the drab surroundings. "Well, I'm Wilhelmina. Great to have you in." I said I'd like a pizza, double pepperoni. I'd seen her face somewhere before. I wasn't sure where, but it wasn't her face that drew my attention first. I wondered why she had an anchor tattoo on her forearm. She caught me looking, said, "Oh, that's from my days in the service. Navy. I took my savings and opened this place last week. Bought it real cheap after the last owner was forced out during the pandemic. Shut down. You're our first customer. That'll be $14.95. I reached for my wallet and started to take out plastic, and then she said, "Oh, it's only cash here." "You don't take credit cards?" She shifted her weight, put her hand on her hip, and flirted a grin as she said, "Not yet, but we're getting one of those squares next week. We'll be big time then." That's when I saw a way to help her out. "Look, Wilhelmina, those square guys aren't being square with your customers, and some of them know it. You see, they have more privacy policies than there are Italian surnames that end in the letter I. And that spells trouble. Troubling. Yeah." She shot a look of fear back at me and said, "Listen, Blank, we don't want no troubly here." "Well, here's what you do." I told her how to change the bottom of her Square receipts with simple instructions for her customers to opt out of Square's pervasive use of secondary data, and how she could put a sign on her door to tell people how she's protecting them, and how she could become an affiliate of a more powerful outfit, the Privacy Co-op. Yeah, Wilhelmina is taking her neighborhood back for the good guys. She said, "Thanks, Blank. How about some extra cheese on me?" Well, that made it extra spicy. So remember the lesson of Wilhelmina. In a network where they buy and sell your secrets with cryptocurrency, it's good to have a friend who values your rights. I'm Blank, Private Eye. All right. Hello, Data-taters. J. Oliver Glasgow here, saying make sure you hit subscribe and that bell thing, and make sure you like and follow and share. And welcome to another thrilling episode of Private Eye, the show that explores all things privacy without peeking in your shopping cart at the drugstore. You know, which brings me to my first topic tonight. You're sharing your desktop right now, and you have a prescription up. So we're not really interested in where you apply the cream. You know, nobody wants anybody to peek in their shopping cart at any store. Well, practically nobody. There is that alt site, My Proud Melons, but we're not going into that right now. This has become an issue that every merchant is having to deal with in our new tech age. It's called point of sale, or POS, and that acronym could cut two ways. That's intentional, and it becomes clearer as we go. Small businesses have had to deal with new wrinkles ever since the first clam shop opened in 10582 BC. Innovations come along and disrupt the way things work. Some businesses adapt and others go under. In Roman times, Merchants that wanted to sell their wares were required to purchase a trading table from the government called a bancus in Latin. It was an early form of taxation by Roman government. If a merchant ran up too much debt and could not repay, Roman authorities would come along and smash the table into pieces. This was called ruptus, believe it or not. Our modern term, bankruptcy, is literal from bancus ruptus. And you thought it was a Wile E. Coyote thing. That's why we call it bankruptcy to this day. Well, a little more than a century ago, mechanical cash register came along, introducing a new ability for taxation. Merchants could now automate calculating taxes per purchase and maintain receipts that could be audited. But you would never dream the shopkeeper would be selling a list of the items that you bought to the highest bidders, plural. Nothing new under the sun, right? You'd be shocked if their business friends learned about the cream that you purchased and where you apply it. That's personal and private, right? But then we entered the digital age. And right now, there are very powerful companies building elaborate POS systems and practically giving them away. There's never been a better time to be a small business. You can buy a POS for peanuts. Sometimes they're even free. But how are those pieces of POSs, how are they making money? I mean, you have a dream to open up a shoe store or a cupcake shop in your neighborhood, and Jack Dorsey, the billionaire behind Twitter, is going to take all of his technical resources and develop a POS just so you can mount it on your iPhone, give you all the accounting you need, make the transactions cheaper than any other system, maybe even cheaper than your bank, and sell it to you on Amazon for what? $9.98? Huh. You'd sound like Sally Field saying, he likes me. He really, really likes me. But it's not you he likes. It's our data, your customers. In next week's show, we'll expose how Jack Dorsey and others make billions by combining data from all sorts of places and use it to develop a digital dossier on you and in some cases crush you out of existence. Whenever big business makes big money, well, big governments are not far behind with a vacuum. You know, we used to call them taxes, but today we call them privacy regulation fines. For tonight's show, we want to focus on that small business owner who has to deal with this new wrinkle, data privacy. Oh, they may not be selling your data, most aren't, but some are. But just like the merchants back in ancient Rome, they may be facing new government penalties and not yet even know it. We have tips and tricks. For small businesses just starting up, promise it's great. So don't touch that dial. And I'm smiling because I know half of you don't even know what that means. And sit back as we get to our first guest tonight. That's right. We're going to bring Kevin Galise into the studio right now. Kevin, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
And I understand we had a little audio problem at the beginning. I hope you can hear me okay.
I can hear you great, yeah.
Okay, that's terrific. Kevin, you know, every time we interview people, we start out with the French philosopher Bernard Pivot. And I always murder his last name. I think I pronounce it differently every single time. But he had his famous 10 questions that he would ask everybody that he interviewed. And, you know, since we're a nonprofit, we can't afford all 10. So we cut it down to a heavily redacted and modified 4.5.
That's just being a smart entrepreneur. I get it.
There you go. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, man. The Expanse.
Oh, The Expanse was good. The soundtrack, I don't know, it kind of put me to sleep.
Yeah,
but the show is amazing.
I don't even remember, so obviously it's not memorable, but I just fell in love with that series.
Yeah, I was watching it with subtitles, and it would say musical cue exciting, and they would play a cello pedal tone, and then they would say musical cue happy, and it was a cello pedal tone, and you know, it was like
Right. It's like basically like Scandinavian level of emoting, like expressing emotion, right? It's like, this is angry. This is happy. Right.
That was it. That was it. What's your favorite number?
I'm going to go ahead and say um, number infinity.
Oh, I like it. Okay, you got me with that one. That's good. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
Ooh, that's a great question. What profession other than mine would I like to attempt? Um, you know, I think it would be really fun to be a journalist, like a real journalist that like finds the truth and brings it to the people, kind of like what you're doing.
Do they have those?
Do those exist anymore? No, it's a dying art.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What is your favorite flavor?
I guess like the like I don't know. Let's just go with apple pie. If that's a flavor, I don't know if you were looking for like umami or sweet or sour, but like apple pie is the first thing that comes to mind.
Umami, man. I am going to have to remember that one. Now, for the half question, who would you like to?
Who would Barack Obama?
All right, good answer. Good answer. So, Kevin Galeese, postgraduate from Humber in comedy writing and performance. You have 16 years plus of professional theater work. You know, you're paying the bills. That's like NFL odds, right? To be able to live to do that and make your living. That's awesome. It's a testament to how great you are. For a decade, Dad's Garage artistic director. Dad's Garage is a staple. It's an icon. It's a landmark in Atlanta anytime you're in ATL. And now independent film producer. So pretty exciting resume, and I'm glad to have you on the show. But the first question that kind of leaps out at me is that when you're successful in the arts, how do you find success during the age of COVID?
You know, I think for all arts institutions, it was really challenging. And I think that Dad's Garage benefited from being a little bit more nimble on account of, improv is what we do on stage, but sometimes it's what we do off stage too. And as you know, those skill sets can be complementary. Learning how to do an improv scene can help you figure out how to think on your feet when you're in another environment. So we pivoted to online programming, and thankfully had a good amount of reserves in the bank to help weather the storm, because I mean the venue's been shuttered for more than a year.
And they just kind of came out recently and had a first show. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. This past Saturday we did our first live show since last March, and it was we built a stage in the parking lot with a screen so you can video the performers and put their faces up so that you can see well from wherever you're parked in the parking lot, and then people can honk when they're laughing. Which,
oh, wow.
If you've ever been honked at before when you're on stage.
I can't say that I have, but it sounds like a treat. Well, no, but that's exciting.
Normally when people are honking at you, they're not saying a good thing. Right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. Well, if they could time it right while you're cussing.
Oh, that'd be good.
No, I don't know if that works, but be censorship by horn. So, it causes me to kind of think and contemplate about this a little bit, because I bet our viewers don't think, I think of the theater in terms of the arts. I don't know that it immediately comes to me that it's also a small business, right? That people in that business, they're facing the same challenges as the shoe store right next door, right? Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about all the different people that work at a theater. We've got our bartenders and our front of house, and we've got the performers, of course. We've also got the technicians. We've got the people that are, the stage managers running things backstage. Then, of course, we have the office staff. You could talk about all the different vendors that we work with, to fill our bar and to repair our AC and our, the list goes on. I mean, we really are a business like any other. But of course, some unique characteristics that are sometimes beneficial, sometimes really not beneficial.
Oh, yeah. And, small businesses today are starting to be more and more driven by data.
Mm.
And that also doesn't leap to our minds when we think about the theater, but is it? Is there more and more data driving what's going on in the theater?
I mean, I think that people that are smart in the way that they run their theaters are leaning towards data-driven decision making. Um, and it can look a little bit different than the type of data you might gather with a different kind of business. For example, the first thing that springs to my mind is that we did a lot of surveys of our audiences and left room for a lot of qualitative answers, which doesn't necessarily fit into a 1 or 0 on a spreadsheet or whatever, but can still really help us inform our decisions. So for my time when I was running Dad's Garage, we definitely tried to bring in as much data-driven decision-making as possible, and I think it benefited us.
Absolutely. And, you also have ticket sales, you have people signing up online.
Yep.
You're getting their contact information. And I know in Dad's, you have people that say, hey, yeah, contact me when another show is coming up. And so you have to maintain that data as well. We went out and looked, and during your tenure there, our artificial intelligence, what we do at the Privacy Co-op, we have software that goes out and reads all these privacy policies for every business and scores them. And Dad's Garage scored one of the highest scores we've ever had. It got 5 stars. And I was reading through it the other day, and yeah, there you go. And I was impressed. You guys took that seriously. So not only are you collecting data, not only are you driven by data, but you're taking that extra precaution with privacy. There are a lot of small businesses that don't even have privacy policies, right? And so they run a lot of risk of those government fines and problems. But you guys had your act together, so congratulations on that. But yeah, and in Atlanta, you guys are just in the middle of like the second Hollywood, right? With Made in Georgia brand and everything else that's going on there. No strangers to celebrities. You have a lot of celebrities that swing through. I know you guys used to run a bacon fest. I don't know if that's still a thing through COVID, but Kevin Bacon showed up, which I just found hysterical that you were throwing this thing. Bacon and beer, is that right?
Yeah, we always said the Bacon Fest is about the 4 B's: beer, bands, bacon, and booths. Because we would, if you've been, we would have those like hilarious booths that you could go up and play our version of a dumb carnival game.
Oh man, yeah, and I have been there, and it was great. But I was floored when Kevin Bacon showed up. But he was in town shooting another movie and said, "Oh, there's a Bacon Fest going. I'm just going to show up," and that was cool.
We had there's quite a story behind that actually, because we really wanted him to come, and so we had been trying to go through official channels to try to get him to attend, and kind of the official channels kind of said, sorry, it's not going to happen. And so then a few of us at the theater were like, well, maybe we can get his attention online in a fun way and it'll convince him. So Dad's is a pretty good community of people. A ton of folks started tweeting out these pictures of Kevin Bacon's face on our poster saying, come to Kevin Bacon Fest. And at first, people in the like kind of professional world around him were like, that is so uncool of you guys, like, for shame. And we were like, oh no, we were trying to be cute. We're so sorry. And then it did end up getting his attention, and he did think it was cute, and he did show up. So that was cool.
Well, there was, and as positive and fantastic as Kevin Bacon is, there was actually a step up from him in my book. You guys started working with Luke Davis, and I caught the short film online with Luke, and what was it? That was awesome. And we were watching it with some friends, and we actually stopped the video in the locker scene, I think locker room scene, and somebody said, I believe him. And that's like one of the highest compliments you can give an actor. But tell us a little bit about Luke and the project that you guys have going on.
Well, Luke is an actor here in Atlanta that has a developmental disability. And so I met him when I was working with the Spotlight program at the MJCCA, which is a program that takes actors with those types of disabilities, like cognitive and developmental disabilities, and lets them work on different acting projects. So that Spotlight program teamed up with Dad's Garage. We made a short film called That Was Awesome. and it was phenomenally funny, very touching, very good. Like you said, that one scene, he's got that great monologue, and so basically, from the success of that, has kind of snowballed into this feature film we're doing. Luke's doing it, but also my wife Amber Nash, who's best known as the voice of Pam Poovey on Archer, she's in it as well. And our good friend Colin Mockery, who is the improv god from Whose Line Is It Anyway, is rounding out the cast. And so, yeah, we're making this feature film called How to Ruin the Holidays here in Atlanta.
And you guys, you brought a clip with you tonight. Would you like to cue it up, or do I just tell the guys to hit it?
I don't even know what the clip is. So
okay, so this is the movie How to Ruin the Holidays. A little clip for everybody to enjoy. Let's take a look at it together here.
Check it out, everybody. I'm gonna be in a movie.
But first, we gotta raise some money on Kickstarter.
Movies ain't cheap, fools.
And I'm gonna be in the movie with you, Luke. And guess who else? I'll give you a hint. He is a comedy icon.
Is it improv god Colin Mockery?
I don't know how I got roped into this.
How to Ruin the Holidays is a feature-length Christmas movie with a lot of heart.
It tells the story of a struggling comedian who reluctantly goes home for the holidays and has to deal with her incredibly difficult family.
It also has a lot of dirty, inappropriate jokes.
Shut up! I'm trying to make a video here.
Sorry. I'm babysitting.
Hey, we should introduce the dummies that are making this thing.
Hi, I'm Arlen, the director of the film.
And I'm Kevin, the writer. And unlike some people, we love Christmas and Christmas movies.
I hate Christmas!
And we want to make our own Christmas classic, so this project is our love letter to the genre.
But because it's us, there's going to be a good dose of adult humor mixed in.
Son of a nutcracker.
I based the script on my experiences growing up with my brother Mark, who has special needs.
Story of my life.
Folks with special needs are rarely portrayed on film.
Yeah, no shit.
And when they are, it's usually one-dimensional, overly sentimental, and treating adults with special needs like kids.
Yeah, no shit.
So we're making a movie that reverses all that. It's about a struggling comedian in LA.
That's me.
Who reluctantly comes back to Atlanta for the holidays and has to deal with her dad, who's kind of gone off the deep end.
That's me.
And ultimately she has to make a life-changing decision about her brother.
That's me.
But we can't make this movie without your help.
Mary did it, George. Mary did it. She told some people you were in trouble with it. They scattered all over town collecting money.
So we're turning to you, the internet.
On this project, we're partnering with Atlanta's favorite comedy theater, Dad's Garage, which is a non-profit. So that means all of your donations are tax deductible.
And there's a lot of hot sizzling perks to choose from.
And a fantastic team that I'm so excited to work with. Except for Kevin. He's an asshole.
So please, click the link below.
And donate to make this thoughtful, hilarious, and unique film a reality.
If you can't donate, give our page a share because spreading the word helps us out so much.
We thank you for your consideration and can't tell you how much your support means to us.
Because representation matters. And I also just really want to be in a movie.
Yeah, Luke is very charming. I'm so lucky to be working with him, and Amber and Colin are obviously amazing. So, yeah, that's the project. That's the pitch. Good work. Good work, tech team, for pulling in that pitch video.
That was pretty awesome. I tell you what, I want to thank you for one thing in that video above all else. You helped prove a point that I've been trying to make to my family for years, that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So I want to thank you for that, right? Yeah. Now we have video proof.
I mean, there is definitely a debate because some people say, no, that's a movie that just so happens to happen at Christmas. And then there's people that say, no, that is the quintessential Christmas movie. So, yeah.
Awesome job. Well, we got the website up and, Kickstarter, a lot of businesses go through that. You have to be careful with the data when it comes in. I know you guys are going to do an awesome job with it. Knock it out of the park. Folks, when you go to Kickstarter and take a look at this, even though it shows that they may be past their goal, which I think they are, just keep giving to this thing because, when you've got a project like this, you set the goal low so you make sure that you meet it. But you really probably have another goal out there that you have in mind. So we need to get behind this together and look at this. And thanks for coming in and talking to us about small businesses and the data and privacy. We really appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, I hope everyone gets a chance to check out the project.
Thank you. And we'll be right back right after this. Hello, Data-taters. J. Oliver Glasgow here saying, we want a ghost story.
Hold it. I'll tell one.
As the COVID restrictions lifted, just like Andy Griffith, our family got back to nature, complete with toasty, tasty s'mores.
Remember, only you can prevent forest fires.
And we took special care with our campfire, thank you very much. But a naturally occurring forest fire can either be a terrifying ghost story or a golden opportunity for a new beginning. Even healthy forests contain dead trees and decaying plants that, when turned to ash, release nutrients back into the soil. It clears the thick undergrowth so that sunlight can reach the forest floor and encourages new life. Bold new wildflowers begin to bloom abundantly. In this age of COVID, there were a lot of terrifying ghost stories. When the for rent sign went up in the window of Diggs Tacos, oh, it broke our hearts. They had the best fresh gourmet tacos. And now, they're a ghost. But not like Patrick Swayze.
Can do so much.
Actually, yeah, like Patrick Swayze. Anyway, are these same ghost stories from the COVID business forest fire now turning into golden opportunities for new business wildflowers? Well, as we went camping and we drove past many such business graveyards, silent, sullen shopping strips of shuttered stores, we actually started to worry about finding supplies, like fishing bait. But all of that changed when we rounded the bend of Chickasaw Avenue on Lake Wister. We saw a hand-painted sign, Jack Jacks, Bait and Tackle. Pulling into the old craggy parking lot to that old craggy building, strikingly juxtaposed by bright, new, proud American and Oklahoma flags, and found more hand-painted signs, cold drinks, snacks, and ultimately the prize, bait. Apparently, we were one of their first customers, and I knew there's got to be a story here. For on the porch of a ghost story to rival that of Diggs back home, now stood three eager men, bursting with pride. Spencer Winningham, his father Mike, and his foster son, John Farley. All came outside to greet us. They didn't even wait for us to get out of our car. That's how attentive they were. And as I purchased supplies, they told me their own ghost story. How Mike had recently survived the deaths of his grandfather, Jack, as well as his own son, also named Jack. The family's legacy of starting and growing new endeavors was now being passed down through his father in this golden beginning, and it's named for their own dearly departed, Jack Jacks. Personally engaging with a new wildflower business, I was immediately struck by two epiphanies. One, this business probably didn't have any interest in data or privacy. After all, they were a cash-only business. And as Mike nearly bragged to me, They were just waiting on their square to come in so that they could charge credit cards. And 2, they were buying new provisions necessary to start a business, like a square, so they could charge credit cards. In the weeks to come, they'll be investing in new furnishings, supplies, signage, and all the fun things that make being a small business owner in America so exciting. Given their location and their personal and friendly concierge help, not to mention amazing prices, it'll be a success. That's a lock. What an amazing golden time this is for all of us right now for new beginnings. While we deeply feel empathy for businesses that have gone under, if COVID had never happened, well, that old business owner of that old business would still be there and likely not spending money for a square or new furnishings or supplies or signage. Jack Jack's is a super injection of economic stimulus that's desperately needed. Mike's ongoing purchases, fueled by his own daily sales, will go a lot further in their community than the government's PPP checks, which got swallowed up by large businesses that didn't really even need them in the first place. This is how the forest will be rebuilt. From the ground up, not from the top down. And that's when I realized it. I had been seriously wrong with my first epiphany. This business would have an interest in data and even privacy. They were getting a square. Did you know that Square has multiple privacy policies depending on who and where you are? And if you've ever paid through one, they're using your data for all kinds of things. That always catches my attention when a company has buckets of privacy policies. This isn't just a golden new beginning for wildflower businesses. It's also one for citizens concerned about our privacy. Small business owners that offer concierge quality service, like Jack Jack's, need to be made aware of how important data privacy is to us. For example, they can tell us who they charge through and how we can opt out of that company's exploitation of our data. It could be as simple as telling us who the vendor is and providing a link to the privacy co-op at the bottom of their receipt. You still buy from them, of course, but now they have your back. Customers would love them for it. We at the Privacy Co-op are developing new tools, not just for our huge affiliates, but also for small businesses to help protect their own customers from data exploitation. If you're a small business owner and you start by requesting a contact from the Privacy Co-op and come back for more and more resources over time, just click the business link at the bottom of our website and request contact on our business page. Heck, I'll even personally grant a $1 3-year affiliation to the first 20 small businesses that do that. We'll treat you just as well as our big affiliates. In this time of golden new beginnings, each of us has a role to play. As you visit these wildflower businesses, tell them how you feel about your data. Let them know the Privacy Co-op can help them grow their business, avoiding fines from regulations, and how they can even become a small business affiliate. And sell Privacy Co-op memberships at their cash registers to make a few extra bucks. It'll help them. But most of all, tell them what I told Mike at Jack Jack's. Keep the change. Until next time, this is J. Oliver Glasgow saying, if you ever find yourself coming around the bend on Chickasaw Avenue near Lake Wister, Oklahoma, drop in at Jack Jack's. Buy some tackle and a cold drink. You'll be glad you did. Later, Data-taters. In Private Eye News, Dan Graves on datacenterdynamics.com reported this week that small businesses face growing challenges from over 128 countries that now have different data privacy regulations. Compounded by the fact that in the U.S., states like Oklahoma and Virginia have followed California's lead with their own regulations, Mr. Graves, the CTO at Delphix, says that one approach is for brute force to be used in data management to make it more flexible, agile, and responsive to user needs, while still being fully protective of private data. To manage the brambles of privacy regulations, he suggests keeping track of every type of data protected by any form of regulation in any country in the world, a long list that's ever growing. Then mask all of that information, no matter which countries you're doing business with or in. Jackie Lowry, writing on smallbusiness.cron.com, says that online businesses face both legal and ethical responsibilities in collecting, safeguarding, and disposing of private consumer information. She concludes it's as important to allow customers to make choices about their private information as it is to include a written privacy statement in a business website or mobile application. We're still waiting for law enforcement agencies to do that as well. Ms. Lowry says to make sure your customers don't disclose information they may not want your e-business to collect or share, with privacy settings and opt-out options. If your e-business caters to children under 13 years of age, get parental consent before collecting personal information. It's always a good idea to ask and not assume. In addition, make sure to use design elements such as color, font, and bolding that call attention to privacy-related information. When it comes to small businesses and cybercrime, the statistics are frightening. 43% of all cyber attacks worldwide target small businesses. And 60% of all small businesses that are victims of cyber attack go out of business within 6 months. Cybercrime costs businesses more than $2.2 billion every year, and in 2019, there was a 424% increase in new small business cyber breaches. Simply put, the digital world is dangerous for small businesses. Entrepreneur.com recommends adding a plug-and-play hardware privacy filter between your modem and your router to protect your small business. They suggest the Winston privacy filter, but it's always a good tip to include such measures in your small business, regardless of make and model. Hey folks, every news source wants to get it right 100% of the time, but even the best slip up and have to make corrections. We here at Private Eye News are no exception and take this seriously. And last week, we had just such a slip up. During a segment, I heard through my in-ear monitor the following clip. Yes, but this is what everyone saw and heard. Oh, wow, that song. That means it's my favorite time in the show. That's right, it's time for Cowboy Caboose. That's the end. Yeah, well, we just want you to know we looked into it, and the ones responsible for making that mistake have been sacked. Yeah, I know. Our last story tonight, hey folks, remember to hit subscribe and that bell thing and like and follow and share. That's how we pay the bills. And don't forget to watch to the end because we have a special offer for small businesses watching the program. We're sticking around for, I assure you. And that wraps up Private Eye News for this week. We'll be right back after this message with our guest Dana Mantilia Cody from Identity Protection Planning right after this.
executive presence has nothing to do with skill and talent. Executive presence is a measure of image.
All right, folks, welcome back. We are so fortunate to have Dana Mantilia Cody with us tonight to the studio. Here we go. It's good to have you here this evening. Right. It's so great to have you. You know, Dana, we do this little thing on the show. I don't know if you recall, there was this French philosopher. His name was Bernard Pivot, and he always asked these 10 questions of people wherever he went. We can't afford all 10 because we're a nonprofit, so we've cut it down to just 4.5 per interviewee, and you're actually starting on the last half of a question. So we're just going to pick it up halfway through the question and take on the next 4. The last half of the question, first one is, most desired taking dancing lessons with?
Ooh, that's a good question. If I was going to take dancing lessons, who would I take dancing lessons with? Oh, I guess I'd have to say my husband. It's kind of the boring answer, but...
Oh, it's a great answer. Great answer. Google or Bing?
Oh, I would have to... I don't know if I should say Bing or Google, but I'm a Google person. I know.
All right, there you go. If you could change one thing about your education, what would it be?
One thing about my education. That's interesting. I would say probably realizing that the real world practicality is a lot more valuable than when you're learning everything just by the book. So they should mix in a little bit more of that at a younger age, I think, for me and for everybody, just so we can kind of see all this stuff we're learning by the book. When you get out into the real world, you're dealing with real people, it changes a little bit.
You know, I have not used the quadratic formula a single time since 10th grade, so I totally get what you're saying. What is your favorite smell?
Oh, that's a good one. I would have to say sandalwood. I like that smell. It's probably an
that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, a little more savory than sweet. That's cool. And when you get to heaven, who would you most like to take tea with?
Ooh, that's a good one. I guess I'd have to start with the big man himself, God.
Oh, there you go.
Right
okay.
Top, right?
That's terrific. It's a terrific answer. You know, your resume reads kind of like a black belt in the art of data and identity protection. You've worked in the automotive industry, but you're a member of InfraGard. You're on the board of directors of the Better Business Bureau. You're a founder of Identity Protection Planning, and just a go-to expert in all things identity protection. And you give us this really great twofer tonight because, you know, I think people are tuning in tonight to learn about what small and medium range businesses can do and be aware of when it comes to data handling. And yet your job is to help people with identity and data, right? So you have all these tips and tricks for the average consumer also. So we're excited about this. Let's dig in. So my first question is, how big is our world of data collection getting?
Oh my goodness. Every day it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not only the collection of the data that's obviously ever growing, it's also the data breaches that are ever happening. And we're so numb to them now. Data breaches happen and we should all be up in arms every time there's one single one, but because they happen so much, we're just kind of numb to them. So we don't really pay much attention to them. So not only are they collecting data everywhere, there's a lot of data that's getting spilled a lot of places.
Oh yeah, that's and there's nothing we can do about that, right? Other than just fuss about it. But there are a lot of other things that we can do, right? So part of the things that you do that so well is that you help consumers kind of approach some of these tips and tricks of what they can do. What's the extent of what we can do? Would that keep us here all night talking about it, or?
Well, it could, but we'll try to break it down a little bit. The biggest thing that I really try to get people to really believe is that there is a problem out there. Because a lot of people still to this day believe this isn't going to happen to me. My information isn't of any value. And everyone needs to realize there's a cultural shift that we all need to be taking into consideration, our data and our privacy protection in every aspect of what we're doing every single day. And that's not going to go away. So there's lots of little things that we can be doing to not overexpose what we're actually sharing. And then things that we can do as far as making sure that we're not involuntarily giving information, such as, you're filling out a form and it's online, and there's 4,000 words in there as far as what you're giving access to and things like that. And a lot of us, nobody reads that stuff. But so let's just take, for example, like apps. If you don't need an app, don't put it on your phone, because chances are there's something in there that they are collecting something from you and doing something with it. So the smaller we can keep our little digital world, the better off. That's a good start. So number one, to realize that there is a problem, that this is not going to go away, and to try to keep our little footprint as small as we can.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And you were talking about people having that attitude, this couldn't possibly happen to me. I know from seeing one of your videos, it happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? You want to tell us a little bit about what happened to you?
So one of the women that works here in the office, she came to my office with her coat on, and I said, "Why do you have your coat on?" And she said, "Because I'm going to get all that stuff you need for me." And I said, "What stuff?" So literally about 20 minutes before, someone had sent her an email, and it looked like it was from my email. It was off by one letter, and it was, "Hey, hurry quickly. I need a lot of help real quick. Can you run out and get these gift cards for me? I have a presentation. I need to have giveaways." So of course she wanted to comply. So she was all set. And then it said, "Let's hop over to your cell phone." So then the conversation jumped to her cell phone. So now it's even more personal, she's feeling. And then she said to me, she said, "Well, how am I going to pay for this?" And so I said back, "Well, just, read me off the numbers when you're at the store, and when you get back, I'll reimburse you." So I said, that wasn't me. So then we started going back to the whole entire thing. And this is a perfect example of something that we talk about this stuff all the time. We should be at the very, very forefront of our thought process, and it happened to us.
Wow. And something like that happened to me. I got an email. I think I was on my phone and I was in a hurry. The trick I do is if I see a link and it calls, it's got a call for attention, like it's my bank and they're saying, "Hey, you need to take care of something." I never click on the link. I right click on it, or I hold it down for a few seconds. I want to take that link and copy it and put it in like a notepad so I can see where it's taking me, because the thing is showing you is not necessarily where it's going to take you. But I was stupid. I was in a hurry and I just pressed the button, and I ended up going to some, botnet attack site that was started trying to take over my device, and I had to shut it down real quick. I felt so stupid. Yeah. But we don't need to feel stupid, do we? This just happens, right?
It happens to everybody. And that's the thing, is a lot of these emails that have links to our bank accounts, or to, let's say it says it's Amazon or delivery, or something like that, and we need to update information about your upcoming delivery. Well, a lot of us are doing online shopping nowadays, so that's not a very uncommon thing. So what I suggest to people is that if they do get a message from Amazon, from their bank, from FedEx, whoever it is, do not click through the email. Open up another web browser, and then go to FedEx.com or go to Amazon and log into your account that way. And then you'll see if there's anything that needed to be updated or any information. But as much as you can possibly never, ever, ever click through a link on an email, the better you are. Because another thing you just mentioned too, that we're all guilty of, is we're all rush. Nothing, we don't stop. If things like this happen to us in real person, we wouldn't fall for them as much. I mean, here's a perfect example. People fall for this one a lot. It's the lottery scam. Congratulations, you won the lottery. This is the email you get. The only thing you have to do is wire us the tax money, and then we're going to release the money, all the winnings, into your account. Wow, this is fantastic, right? However, if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, listen, I got $1 million in the trunk of that car. I just need you to give me $500 so I can go get a key made, and then I'm going to be right back, and then you're going to get the car and the key and $1 million." You would think this is crazy, but we react differently online than we do think when we're dealing with somebody face to face. And whether it's because it's more senses we have, because that person is in front of us, or because we slow down a little bit more, I don't really know. But we do need to stop and take a couple of extra seconds with everything we're doing online.
I agree. I'm still waiting for a thank you from the Prince of Burundi from 20 years ago when I emailed him $1,000 to help him get out of the country, but I never heard back. These things happen, right? So almost all of these are covered in your videos, and I absolutely love sometimes you're in a mustache, sometimes you got the wig going. It's a lot of fun. I think I catch most of your videos on LinkedIn, but where can our viewing audience best come to find you?
Well, I've just started kind of launching up my YouTube channel. So all of my videos are there too. So if somebody's not a LinkedIn regular, they can go there. They can also go to the company website, which is identityprotectionplanning.com, and find me there. And if you are on LinkedIn, you could just send me a message or a connection request, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you.
Oh, terrific. That's fantastic. Okay, so lots of good portals for them to go. And folks, I definitely encourage you to go check out those videos because they're funny and yet very informative. Now, your company is really focused on helping people who have had a problem with their data, specifically their identity, right? We've seen products like this where, you know, they sign up with you guys and then hopefully nothing bad happens, but if something bad happens, you guys take care of them. Can you kind of give us an essence of what that is? That's identity protection, is that right?
Yeah, that's our product. It's called Identron. And so what it does is it monitors your credit activity with all three of the credit reporting agencies. And want to quickly just stop on that. Why it's so important to have all three of the bureaus monitoring is because, let's say, for example, you have one credit bureau monitoring through Experian, and an identity thief has your information and they're using a vendor, maybe at a car dealership or somebody, and that vendor is using TransUnion to run credit reports. So you're not going to get an alert that that credit is being run. Eventually that information will fall on your credit report, but we're looking for the alert. We want to know, whoa, wait, somebody's trying to do something with my information right now, so that you can kind of get ahead of it. So that's one thing I always suggest to anybody, whether you're going to do it yourself and run your own credit or sign up for a service, that you make sure you get one that has all three of the credit bureaus because you want the alert. So that's one thing. It's also a restoration center. The other thing that happens is when someone does become a victim, they don't know who to call or what to do. So we have a restoration center. They call a team of experts that are going to help identify where the problem is, try to isolate it, and then let them know which agencies they need to contact, how to start cleaning up the mess, and then they'll stick with them the entire way through the process until it's resolved. So that's pretty
wow.
If there's $1 million AIG insurance policy, if there's any financial expenses related to that. So that's what the product does. That's the reactive part of it. The other part that we try to do is the proactive part of trying to protect our identities before something happens. And there's lots of little tricks, and that's some of the stuff that I do talk about in the videos. For example, yesterday I talked about going on and claiming your Social Security or my Social Security account, and 3 people messaged me that they had seen the video, they went on to go claim theirs, and they had problems. And so then they started looking a little bit deeper, and they were victims of identity theft. So then, you know, the panic sets in. They don't have a monitoring product right now. So I try to help them with, you know, the different areas, places that you should go, and suggest that they do either sign up for a monitoring service or they do it themselves. But that's a terrible feeling when something does happen. So it does happen, but more importantly, we want to try to get people to be more proactively aware of how they can protect themselves.
Wow, and they can't even take advantage of your reactive unless they are proactive and come sign up with you, right? That's an essential component. It's kind of like, I imagine, like fire insurance. It's too late if the house is burned down, right? Exactly. So you want to do this when everything's well and good, and that's the right time to do it. Yeah. But there's an interesting wrinkle here, because you're helping, in a way, you're protecting people's data and what can happen if it gets mistreated. But in order to do that, they have to probably give across a lot of very sensitive personal information about themselves. So tell the small businesses, middle-range businesses, when you're dealing with consumer data, do you have some tips and tricks for them? How did you go about making sure that you guys were secure and that you were regulatorily compliant?
Those are very good questions. And I think that one of the most important things to do is realize that you do have a responsibility in this, whether or not you want to turn a blind eye or not turn a blind eye. If you're handling data, you are going to be responsible at some point if something goes awry. So you want to make sure that any kind of software that you're using has the highest level of encryption, and you're not touching that if you don't have to. If you don't need to get a copy of something, then don't get a copy of something. And just make sure that whatever company can absolutely positively verify that the information that the consumer is putting in is going directly and cannot be transmitted or stopped along the way by anybody. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's a great tip to small businesses, especially. I know from my experience, and I worked in a small business back in the 90s, I remember the day when we were building the little questionnaire that we would ask customers, and it was like, what else can we put on this? we weren't thinking, what do we limit? We were asking, hey, let's ask them what their birthday is. Let's ask them what their mother's maiden name is. We were asking too much information, and we weren't using any of it, right? So I think that's great advice to the small business. And the other one is, whenever you can afford or whenever you can manage to work with a third party who specializes in data security or platform management, it's always good to go to them. Don't try to build your own data center unless you're a data center person,
Absolutely.
right? That's
and if you don't need the information, don't ask the information. And you need to make sure also that your employees are trained on making sure that they know how are we handling our data, or we don't give it to this, or we're allowed to give it to this, who has access to it. And that really needs to be reeled in. It was one of the things I hate to say this, but when someone does have a data breach, eventually the FBI is going to show up and they are going to say, this is going to be the biggest question that's going to probably determine if that business is going to stay in business. They're going to say, what were you doing to protect the data before the breach? Now, we can't rewind time and say, oh, let's go back in time and put some processes in place. And so you're going to have to be honest, and then they're going to go around and they're going to ask all the employees. And if they have 20 to 5 different answers and, people are making things up or nobody knows what to say or anything, that's terrible. Whereas if you could, let's say you accidentally do have a data breach, the FBI comes in and you can show them your employee training, your employee code of conduct, your user access, all these things. If you can show them that we really were trying to be proactive with protecting the data, the conversation is going to be much, much different when it comes to fines and fees that they're going to associate with the breach. So
wow,
be proactive with.
And if I'm watching this show right now and I'm a small business person, I want to reach out to Dana and say, hey, can you come work with our business? Is that something that you guys do at your company? Do you go and help businesses out in this way? And if so, what's the spectrum?
Yeah, so it's kind of all over the road as far as having a general meeting with the employees, putting together some specific videos for your specific types of data that you have that the employees can watch. Putting a webinar series together, getting some regular training in place that the employees are going to sign off on, because again, that's something you're going to want to be able to say, look, they did training, we verified it, they've signed off that they've done the training, things along those lines. There's lots of educational links that we can provide to areas they can go to, and just having them get a good process and procedure in place. But the biggest thing, again, it comes down to the culture within the organization. And we all need to understand that getting ready for cybersecurity isn't like cramming for a test and, somebody comes in and checks out and you're like, oh, good, whew, they're gone, No, this has to be a way that we just we operate every single day in and out with our businesses. So part of the culture.
Yeah, wise words from Dana. You are just such a great specialist. It was so great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That was terrific. In our Cowboy Caboose segment, it's the end of the show. We're looking forward to next week having some great guests. We'll go into that in just a moment. But right now, I just want to say, did you catch the Easter egg for small businesses? If you might want to go back to it if you didn't. It's in the middle of the show. Hint, it's towards the end of the private swim. And folks, if you are counting tonight, we asked 9 out of our 10 famous questions, which leave 1 left for you, our faithful viewers. Number 10, what'd you think? Let us know at pi@privacy.coop. We look forward to hearing from you. And now, as I've mentioned, next week we've got an amazing show coming up, and it's epic. And I don't use that word lightly. Rose Davis is going to join us, respected sociologist. She'll be discussing her Shake-Up piece that's just published, Data Genocide, Are Minority Opinions Being Murdered Online? If you'd like to have a read before we speak to her, you can find it at bit.ly/data genocide. But a word of caution, not for the faint of heart. Hey, folks, we are out of time, and we want to thank you for tuning in this week. We will see you next week. Later, Data.